The evening was settling in with a quiet murmur, the sun casting long shadows across the living room where I sat, laptop open, ready to settle into a rhythm of mindless browsing. Lily had left hers on the couch, a silent, sleek machine that was usually off-limits to me. Personal space, she called it, but tonight, it beckoned. With a hesitancy that felt like trespassing, I opened it. Her password was our anniversary date, something I'd guessed after a few tries in the past. The screen came to life, revealing her desktop, scattered with the usual folders, shortcuts, and an array of open tabs that she hadn't bothered to. Of his vengeance has been too. One tab caught my eye immediately. It was not the usual Pinterest or online shopping sites she frequented, but a women's forum called Venus Voices. My curiosity piqued. I clicked. The page loaded to reveal a thread titled, "When is enough really enough?" My heart thumped erratically as I scrolled through the posts, and then I saw it, a post from a user named Lily Loves Life, her usual moniker. My breath hitched as I began to read, each word a needle to my heart. "I'm so tired of pretending," the post began. "Living with James is draining me. Every day, it's the same routine, the same dull conversations. I need excitement, I need passion. I've found solace in others, yes, others. There's Mark, the passionate one, Alex, who's always caring. I can't decide who's better to choose. Advice?" The words blurred as my hands trembled. This wasn't just a venting session, it was a confession, a blatant declaration of her betrayal. I heard the front door click, and moments later, Lily walked in, her face lighting up as she saw me. "Hey, love, didn't hear you come in," she said, dropping a peck on my cheek. I turned the screen toward her, my voice cold and steady. "Care to explain this?" Her smile faltered, eyes widening as she read. "James, I..." "How long, Lily?" I interrupted, my voice a mix of fury and despair. "It's not what it looks like, I can explain," she stammered, but I was beyond listening. The following days were a blur of shouting, accusations, and icy silences. The image of Lily I held in my heart crumbled piece by piece as the reality of her deceit washed over me. I wasn't just betrayed, I was replaced, again and again, by fleeting flings that she paraded in secret. My thoughts darkened as I planned my next moves. If she sought to shatter our vows so carelessly, I would ensure the repercussions were equally careless in their cruelty. Revenge became a beacon, a siren call that I couldn't ignore. I started by freezing our joint accounts, cancelling credit cards. Every shared piece of our digital life was methodically, ruthlessly dismantled. I contacted a lawyer, setting the wheels of divorce in motion before she could concoct a story to sway the narrative. By the time she realized the extent of my retribution, it was too late. Our marriage was dissolved as quickly as the trust between us, leaving nothing but bitter memories and a vow of eternal separation. As I packed the last box of my belongings from what was once our shared life, I glanced around the now empty apartment. The silence was profound, a stark contrast to the chaos of betrayal that had filled these walls just weeks prior. I shut the door behind me with no intention of looking back. The air was thick with tension as I walked through the office corridors the next day. My mind replayed the previous evening's confrontation, each word echoing like a gunshot in the quiet of my thoughts. The fallout from Lily's betrayal was not just a private agony, it seeped into every crevice of my life, including my work. As I sat down at my desk, my phone vibrated, a message from Lily. Her text was a mixture of apology and pleading, a desperate attempt to mend fences that were already burned to the ground. I stared at the screen, a plan forming in my mind, cold and calculated. If she thought she could sway me with a few contrite words, she was mistaken. This was war. Later that day, I met with my lawyer, Tom, in a quiet coffee shop downtown. His face was grave as he listened to my story. "So, you want to go through with this?" "It's pretty harsh, James," Tom cautioned, his brow furrowed in concern. "Yes," I replied firmly. "I want everything laid out so that she can't wriggle her way out of this mess she's created." Tom nodded, understanding the depth of my resolve. "I'll make sure the divorce papers are ironclad." She won't see a dime of your investments, and I'll tie up the proceedings so that any attempt at reconciliation is futile." Gratitude washed over me. "Thank you, Tom. I need someone in my corner." The days that followed were a chess game. I moved strategically, blocking Lily's every attempt at communication and reconciliation. She tried calling, emailing, even showing up at the office, but I was always one step ahead, a ghost to her pleas. One particularly chilly evening, as I was leaving the office, I found her waiting by my car, her eyes red from crying. "James, please, can we just talk?" I paused, considering her for a moment, then shook my head. "There's nothing left to say, Lily." "But I love you, I made a mistake," she protested, her voice cracking with desperation. "You don't destroy what you love, Lily." "You chose this," I said coldly, unlocking my car. "I'm sorry, I really am. Can't we try?" "Goodbye, Lily." I cut her off, sliding into the driver's seat and leaving her in the parking lot, a solitary figure consumed by the gathering dusk. As I drove away, my thoughts were not on Lily but on my next moves. I had begun to spread rumors of her infidelities within our circle of friends, carefully crafting the narrative so that the sympathy lay with me. Social isolation would be her companion now, not lovers. Each action was a calculated strike, designed to dismantle the life she knew and cherished. It wasn't just about revenge, it was about justice, about restoring some semblance of order to the chaos she had thrust upon me. As I lay in bed that night, the silence of the apartment was a stark contrast to the storm raging within me. The path I had chosen was dark, lined with the debris of our shattered life together, but I was too far down the road to turn back. The battle lines were drawn, and I was ready for war. The weeks rolled on like a relentless tide, each day a new skirmish in the war of wills between Lily and me. The landscape of our shared life had become a battlefield, where each encounter was fraught with hidden mines and ambushes. It was a Wednesday when I received a call from an unknown number. Hesitantly, I answered, my voice guarded. "Hello?" "James, it's Mark." The voice was hesitant, cautious. A moment of silence hung between us before I recognized him as one of the men Lily had mentioned in her forum post. "What do you want?" I asked, my tone ice cold, yet curious about his reasons for calling. "I think we need to talk." "About Lily?" Face to face, Mark's voice was firm, betraying a hint of urgency. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet him at a local bar that evening. The place was dimly lit and mostly empty, a suitable venue for clandestine meetings. Mark was already there, nursing a drink, looking every bit as uncomfortable as I felt. As I sat down, he didn't waste time. "I didn't know she was married, James." "Not at first, anyway." I nodded, letting him speak, my hands clenched tightly around my glass. "She told us, me and Alex, that she was separated, looking to start over. By the time I realized the truth, it was complicated." "Complicated how?" My voice was a low growl, demanding an answer. Mark sighed, his gaze dropping. "We fell for the same lies, James. I'm not here to ask for forgiveness. I just think you should know who you were really married to." The conversation lasted for over an hour. Mark detailed their meetings, Lily's manipulations, and how she had played us all for fools. I listened, a part of me sickened by the sordid details, another part cataloguing every fact for later use. Leaving the bar, I felt a strange camaraderie with Mark, a fellow victim in Lily's deceptive game. But there was no room for allies in my plan. Only pawns. The next day, armed with new information, I launched the next phase of my campaign. I went to the press. A friend of a friend worked at a local newspaper, always hungry for juicy stories. I laid out Lily's betrayals, framing them within a narrative of deceit and moral decline. By the weekend, the story was out, a scandalous headline that caught the eye of every gossiper in town. Lily's reputation crumbled overnight. Her social media profiles were bombarded with hateful messages, her professional network shunning her as the news spread. I watched from the shadows, a bitter satisfaction in my heart. At home, my phone buzzed. It was Lily, her voice frantic. "James, why are you doing this? You're destroying me." "I'm only shedding light on the truth, Lily. You did the destroying yourself. You won't get away with this. There will be consequences," she threatened, her voice shaky with rage and fear. "Consequences," I echoed, a smirk playing on my lips. "You're right about that. Goodbye, Lily." I hung up, a finality in the act that felt like slamming the door on a dark, suffocating room. The battle was far from over, but I had gained significant ground. My revenge was a consuming fire, and I was its relentless keeper. The echoes of our war would resound long after the dust had settled, but I was ready for whatever came next, armed with the truth and shielded by my resolve. The war of attrition that had become my daily ritual was nearing its climax. Every move had been calculated to inflict maximum damage, every revelation timed to ensure Lily's descent into despair mirrored my own emotional freefall when I had discovered her betrayal. As the town buzzed with the scandal, I prepared for the final act of this tragic play. A cold November rain tapped rhythmically against my windows, mirroring the drumbeat of retribution that had become my heartbeat. My phone rang. It was Alex, the other name Lily had mentioned. Until now, he had been a shadow in the background, but today he stepped into the light. "James, we need to talk. I know about the article, about what you've done to Lily." Alex's voice was strained, carrying an undertone of something I couldn't quite place, fear, perhaps, or maybe desperation. "I'm listening," I responded, my voice devoid of any warmth. "I want to meet." "There's more to this story, things you don't know about Lily, about us," he said. Curiosity piqued, I agreed to meet at an old warehouse on the outskirts of town, a place far removed from prying eyes. The setting was fitting for what I anticipated might be a confrontation. I arrived first, the echo of my footsteps bouncing off the cold metal walls, filling the space with the sound of impending doom. Alex arrived, his figure emerging from the shadows, his face pale under the harsh light of a single hanging bulb. "James, before you say anything, just hear me out." I nodded, my arms folded, my demeanor as hard as the concrete underfoot. "Lily was planning to leave you, it's true. But not for me or Mark. There was someone else, someone she's been seeing for a long time. We were just distractions, part of her game to keep you off the scent." Alex's words came out in a rush, a stream of confessions that painted an even darker picture than I had imagined. "Who?" The question was a blade, sharp and simple. "She's leaving town with him tonight. They're planning to start anew far away from here," Alex continued, his eyes not meeting mine. The revelation hit like a physical blow. Betrayal led upon betrayal, a deceit so deep it was almost admirable in its audacity. I felt the last vestige of my love for Lily turn to ash. "Where?" I demanded, my voice a growl. Alex scribbled an address on a piece of paper, sliding it across the floor to me. "She's there now, packing up. If you hurry, you can catch her." With no words left to say, I turned and left, the address clenched in my fist like a war banner. The drive was a blur, my mind consumed by visions of this final confrontation. When I arrived at the address, a modest apartment in a quiet part of town, I saw them, Lily and a man, loading suitcases into a car. I approached silently, unseen, until I stood directly behind them. "Going somewhere?" Lily turned, her face a mask of shock and fear. The man beside her stood frozen, a deer in headlights. "James, There's nothing left to say, is there?" I cut her off, my voice calm but carrying an edge sharper than any knife. The confrontation was brief. There were no more lies, no pleading. Lily knew the game was up. With a final look of something that might have been regret or perhaps just resignation, she got into the car and drove off into the rain-soaked night. The man followed, casting a wary glance back at me. As I watched the taillights disappear, a strange peace settled over me. The fury, the hurt, the relentless drive for vengeance, they had all burned out, leaving behind only a cold, hard resolve. Lily was gone, out of my life forever, and that was the best revenge I could have ever achieved. I walked back to my car, the rain washing over me, cleansing the remnants of the past. I had lost much, but I had regained my freedom, my dignity, and my future. The war was over, and I was still standing. As I drove away, the first light of dawn began to break over the horizon, promising a new day, a new beginning.